Mr. Becker, we're live.
Okay, welcome everybody to our Special Activities Committee meeting. We'll be mainly discussing what we'll plan on doing with our football game this Friday night and moving forward. Before we start, I just want to let you know that we did receive, some emails and some phone calls. I know board members did, and I did. I'm sure Mr. Callahan did as well, regarding wishes on how we're going to proceed here. And I want everybody to know that it's not easy to try to figure out how we're going to do this. The governor has a state mandate, and it is a mandate, unlike a lot of other things that have come down from the state that were recommendations. This is a mandate. And, most schools around the area are staying within the 250. There are some that have chose not to look in a different direction. So we're going to discuss those points tonight. Mr. Callahan has made a little bit of spreadsheet that we shared last week, but we'll share again tonight because we had got some numbers to change we changed a little bit. And if we have any questions, we'll answer those questions after this meeting. After the activities meeting at 6:30, we'll have a brief board meeting just to solidify what we're going to do. And we have a couple of other items, housekeeping items on the agenda as well. So we'll move forward. We have present here Mr. Tim Vogt, Mr. Eli Yimzow, and Ms. Cindy Brassington. Present, Drew Hampton is online, as well as Josh Hoagland is online, and some other administrators. Anthony Serafini is online too. So, to start, I'd like to share my screen. Again, please understand this is what we're looking at. This is for the Bloomsburg game only. Now, every week it could change, and our hope is that the legislation that has passed the State House and the State Senate eventually gets passed, all together. We're hoping the governor signs it, and that would give the school district the opportunity to dictate how many fans and how we could run our own operations. There's some back and forth, but as of right now, that's not passed. So we're dealing with our 250 mandate right now. So looking at these numbers, the top couple sections are all going to be the same. Again, we're playing Bloomsburg across the board, and these numbers won't change. It's our number of our team players, our team's coaches and staff, Bloomsburg's players, Bloomsburg's coaches and staff, and our team physician. As you can see, we have 6 options, and we could have any variation of the options, but the first couple rows are all going to be stagnant. The clock operator, we need 2 of them. One's a operator, one's a 30-second clock operator. Announcer plus a spotter. Security, we have 3 security guards. Chain crew, we have 4. Game manager 1, athletic trainer 1, and a helper, so there's 2. One for Bloom. 1 for ours, 1 for Bloom. The media and the officials. Now, some of these numbers, the media is probably a little large. We're conservative in our numbers because, again, we don't want to be, short with our numbers. The 153 is a stagnant number. The lower rows is what we need to talk about. Now, I know people are first probably seeing band and band staff as being zeros. Mr. Callahan and I met with Mr. Thomas today, and although we have zeros there, they're not counted out. What we've decided, and Mr. Thomas is fine with this, is the band will go on at 5 p.m. So they'll go on and do their show at 5 p.m. The players for warm-ups don't take the field till 5:30. So the band can do their show The band parents can come in and watch the band do their show, and then the band will be exiting the stadium. And we're asking the band parents to exit the stadium as well. So by 5 o'clock, the band can go on, do their show. By 5:30, the band and band parents could leave the stadium. The band gets an opportunity to do their show every home game and put a performance on. So that's why the zeros are there. And that was, again, talked with Mr. Thomas, and he was fine. And again, it's not exactly what we want to do. And again, if that legislation passes, we will do something different. But then we're talking for this Friday night only. We're going to be looking at the columns. You see, I have the columns highlighted. The first column is bringing the cheerleaders in, 2 tickets per cheerleader, and then 2 tickets per football player on both sides of the field. So as you can see, with the stagnant number of 153, adding these numbers up, we're at 396. Second column, again, stagnant number 153, you have cheerleaders, advisor, 1 ticket per cheerleader parent for their 1 parent, 1 ticket per football player on both sides. Puts us at 285. That's the second column. Third column, cheerleaders, advisor, 1 ticket per cheerleading parent, 1 ticket per home football player, our own football players. And that puts us at 241. Fourth column, cheerleaders, cheerleading advisor, no cheer parents, no football parents, and they're at 174. Fifth column, no cheerleaders, no advisor, no cheer parents, 2 parents per football player on both sides, gives us 335. Last column, no cheer, no parents for cheer, 1 parent per both sides per football player, and that gives us 244. So there are the options we came up with, and we can do variations of any option. Again, my recommendation is to, whatever option we do, to stay within the 250. Again, I know other schools are doing that. It's not recommended by our, legal counsel. I know the PIAA has come out and said, stay within the 250. So that's going to be my recommendation, is to stay within the 250. How we move forward would be up to the consensus of the board. So I'm opening it up for any questions or any discussion.
I guess what we're looking for is board members that are virtual. If you could just come up with an option to present, just go down the list one by one. And
what's our administration's recommendation? Which of the ones is the administration's recommendation?
I hate, and again, Bill and I have talked, and Jim Roth was involved in this, and we hate to exclude anybody. We're happy to find, an opportunity from the band and have all the band parents come and see their son or daughters playing the band on the field on game night. It's going to be a little earlier. We've seen that'll work well. The only other option where we can have parents come and see is this column 3, where you have 1 parent per child, or per student athlete. So one cheerleader, or each cheerleader gets 1 ticket, each football player gets 1 ticket, and that puts us at 241, just under the threshold.
Other quick question here, Jim, before you give me, is that what you're kind of pushing towards? Is that number, whatever, that E column?
Yeah, and again, I'm open for any kind of variation of that. Just my hopes is to stay under the 250. And believe me, it's not what I would like to see. I would love to see our stadium packed.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree with that 100%. I mean, obviously we want to see, I mean, it's not something that any of us want to do. The other quick question that I wanted to ask you was did we have the proper paperwork signed for as far as treatment of players if something were to happen on the field?
as far as
Well, I know at the last meeting there was an event that had happened at another school district. I think Tim, you were talking about it, and they weren't able to treat the player because the parents weren't there. And I remember you guys talking that there was paperwork that needed to be filled out. That if by happen chance the parent wasn't there, that they were able to treat the player until the parents were there.
Yeah, I remember that conversation. If we go without parents, then we'd have to get that paperwork signed. I'm not even sure, Drew, what that paperwork would look like or is. I thought it was, if there was a kid in need, I was surprised an ambulance would not care for that, especially being here at school and all the laws regarding in loco parentis. Which is in place of parents. But if our trainer thought that we needed a waiver for that to do, I'm sure we can get that and get our athletes to have them signed before Friday.
Well, I think
we need to go.
I think no matter what, we should look into that no matter what, because if that is the case, which I don't know how that works either. I hate to say, but I can't see how they can say we wouldn't treat an emergency on the field. But on the other hand, I think we should work towards that, especially in the football sense. Only because if we are only allowing one parent or anything like that, and that parent isn't able to make it, or anything like that, there's no grandparents or anybody else there that may usually come to the game. There's a lot of different things that can go on there that we should probably have that paperwork signed or whatever. I never heard of anything like that. I thought if there was an emergency that was on the field that the player needed to be treated in an ambulance, the player was treated in an ambulance and taken to a hospital. But if it happened before, maybe there is something there. The only other thing would have been if we had that, the discussion with having senior parents being there and figuring out what the numbers would be for senior parents.
I think we have 15 seniors on the football team. We have, I think, 9 seniors on the cheerleading staff or the cheerleading team. I think it's 9. It's either 9 or 10.
How many senior band members do we know that? Or are we just
counting
that
I'm not sure of the senior band members.
Okay.
Well, all those parents would be able to attend.
Yeah, we would allow because
Yeah, just that
Yeah,
we go ahead
yeah,
of time. Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think it looks like no matter what, we're going to have to, it's not a matter of if we have to divvy up parents, it's how we're going to do it. So I think it's really important to get seniors, parents their opportunity to see the games. I think with how unsure everything is, I mean, it can change day by day. So I think, I don't know, it's my opinion that they deserve to be able to see it.
Jim, what's some of the other things that are happening in the Heartland Conference? Did you talk to Coach Roth might be one of the, I don't know, whoever talked to the rest of the Heartland Conference. What are they doing?
Well, most of the schools have stayed within the 250 or, close to it, I guess. I don't think anybody's going to come in your stadium and count the number of people there, but most of them are following that guideline. There are a few schools that are not. But most of them, with the extra tickets, after they looked at the groups that were involved with the game, the teams, whether they brought their cheerleaders or band, and that varies from school to school, but most of them that have extra tickets, and they all had extra tickets to some extent, pretty much have been taking care of the home parents and the home fans, and not really distributing to the visiting team because of the numbers. And most of the schools have felt that it's the main thing is to allow their parents to come in and see their kids play, because they're probably not going to have an opportunity at away games the way things have been going. So for example, if you did one for every parent on both teams, that's great to have that gesture sent out for the opposing team. But when you go on the road, you may not get a single ticket for a parent. And so that's where it's at. I just want to make a quick comment too about that other issue. I'm not sure what happened at Monoy, but as far as injuries, I mean, injuries occur all the time in high school athletics, and they have in our programs over the years where there's no parent on site. And so it's dealt with. I mean, I'm not sure if it's because of the COVID situation that there's a special waiver or something. I don't know what that's all about, but it's not.
I've never heard of it either.
Yeah.
Coach. That's I was thrown back by it when that came out when I forget who brought it up last week, but I was really thrown back by it, and I assume that if there was an injury, that you're not going to sit there and let it go until you got treatment from a parent or got permission from a parent.
I know for us, it's happened more often, like in JV football games or maybe junior high, especially the ones that start after school. For example, our JV teams at Williamsport today. Well, there are kids on that team that I'm sure didn't have parents that were able to make it up there in time for a JV game after school. If a kid would get hurt, they were always taken care of. So I'm not sure what that's about.
Coach, quick question. If we didn't stick strictly to the 250, is there any reason to think that we would be penalized by the conference?
Oh, the conference wouldn't penalize us. There are teams in the conference going over 250. So I think it comes down to what could potentially happen with the state.
Okay. Because
Josh, I think it was more or less like Coach just said, the state. If we blatantly, obviously, just basically say we're not doing it, what is our liability, and where does it fall if somebody wants to push it with the state?
The only thing I can dig up is some of the restaurants, eating establishments that went over their quota, their limit. They were fined. So I don't know if that's what would happen at a sporting event. I do know at the Mahanoy North Schuylkill game at Mahanoy this weekend, state police did show up to count people in the stadium. Now, they were under the 250, so nothing happened. So I'm not sure how that all materialized, but I did talk to the North Schuylkill superintendent, and he confirmed that happened at Mahanoy Friday night.
Hey,
Jim, I
Mr.
didn't
Becker,
talk to.
what is the concern that the PIAA could sanction us, since they've specifically asked us to adhere to the governor's mandate for fear that he could shut down interscholastic?
Yeah, I don't think I haven't seen anything from PIAA that they were going to sanction us for this. I know, like I said, there are other schools. Most of them are staying within a 250. There are other schools in our area that are I've already board approved going over 250. I haven't seen anything from the PIAA. The statement that they put out is they said they would like to keep a good working relationship. The PIAA would like to keep a good working relationship with the state government. So that's why they were recommending staying within the 250 range.
So my issue with all of this is simply, we're not trying to be reckless or irresponsible, but the state is saying that the whole stadium, regardless of whether you can actually be allowed to walk from one side to the other, is a single facility. And, we're fortunate to have restrooms on both sides that we can split it so that it functions completely as two separate facilities. We got it's open just down the street over 250. This makes no sense.
Right. So is there any reasonable legal interpretation out there that, one side of the facility is a gathering, the other side of the facility is a different gathering, if we're able to maintain separation by, forcing people to not mingle at restrooms or anything like that?
I asked Carl that last week, our solicitor Carl Beard. He said the stadium would be considered one facility. That's an attorney's opinion. And he recommended staying in the 250 range.
Okay. And then I have one other question on this before we move forward. I know there was I think it was a federal ruling today in a lawsuit against, the state of Pennsylvania and the governor's office, I guess, regarding the legality or constitutionality of these outdoor gathering limits. Do we have any information on whether that would apply to us? Does that change any of these discussions? I mean, we're still a public entity, so I would assume the governor has further restrictive powers for us than just the general public. Do we have any guidance on that?
Nothing came out because, as you said, Josh, that ruling was this morning. There was a newspaper article, as you know, or an online article. People are talking about it. I mean, administrators around our area already knew about it. So I guess we're waiting for some kind of interpretation or guidance to come this week. I mean, and again, we could have, at any time this bill be passed, the governor could shock us and sign it, and which he said he's not going to. But I think we got to be ready to, whatever plan we decide, switch the plan to what best fits our community within the guidelines at a moment's notice.
So I'd just like to make sure that I understand this completely. So I'm going to repeat some things that have been said, and please somebody correct me if I'm wrong or just reaffirm here. And I'm sorry for the repetitiveness, but so as it stands right now, we see no legal argument that we can split the stadium into multiple groups. So everybody in the stadium is one. We see no way around the governor's mandate limiting outdoor gatherings to 250 people unless we actively want to violate that. And there's a risk. The risks are ranging from fines to loss of school funding to possibly resulting in what has been threatened as just canceling all sports and not allowing sports to proceed if we don't follow the mandate. That's the governor's threat to PIAA. Is that all accurate, or am I misinterpreting something at this point?
No, I think you're pretty close on just about all that, Josh. And I haven't heard the canceling of sports, but as you know, this spring he did just that. Well, the PIAA did with pressure. So, those things.
I thought I read that in some form of communication somewhere that PIAA was concerned that if people didn't heed the governor's mandate for the outdoor gathering limits, that they may respond with no sports at all, since that was already a discussion point.
Jim, I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but I heard that the schools that went over the mandate, in fact, I was talking to Clay and the other police officer after they had met with you. I think it was on Friday. And they said, like, when Shikellamy looked into it, what they found out was that the governor's office could not, or the government could not do anything to the school other than call the state police and have your event terminated if you were going over his mandate, that there was no financial type of penalty that could be brought toward the school. And that's one of the reasons that some of them went with it, is they didn't feel that he was going to go to that extent to have the state police come in and shut down the event. Again, I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but that was just information I heard that was the potential repercussion of going over the 250, especially if you're over it to the extent like Shikellamy approved 500. I heard Shamokin tonight might maybe approving even more than that. I don't know.
Coach, this is Josh again. What's your assessment on the risk of them responding, the governor's office responding and shutting down all sports, because they do have that authority?
Well, I would just think from what has happened through this whole issue over the last few months, that if he found out that there were just many schools out there that were ignoring the mandate, I would think that would be, something that he would potentially look at. I mean, but I haven't followed it that close at the government level, so I can't really speak with too much certainty on what would happen there. But I would think that with what just was announced today, as far as a federal court saying that things that he's done are unconstitutional, I don't know how quick he would be to shut anything down. I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, just from the fact that they're being being reprimanded now by the federal government.
Sure. And then just one other question, Coach. What is your recommendation as far as the plan here? What should we?
Well, I think,
because I mean, ultimately, if we get shut down or we pull the spotlight on us for whatever decision we make, if we exceed the governor's direction, and Southern Columbia gets blamed as the one who shut down sports for everybody else for the fall, I don't see that happening. But I just want to make sure that whatever we do, you as the coach and as our athletic director are comfortable with, whatever risk we decide we're comfortable with here. So what do you think is our best course of action before the board really decides, I guess?
Well, I think what Jim has laid out here and what administration is recommending, at this point is probably the safest at this point in time. And I think we're all kind of hopeful that things are going to change in the not too far future. And, then we can look at, because with the size of our stadium, the president of our league made a comment to me recently that he said, there's only one stadium in our school or in our conference that I have not seen. He said, but I think every stadium in our conference could probably could have 1,000 people, when you consider what's on the field, and still, be relatively safe as far as this distancing and not have people on top of each other, that type of thing. So, and that was a comment from the president of the league right now. So if things open up, and hopefully that happens soon, but for now, I think the recommendations that that they've come up with, and we've had some meetings about it, are, that would be my feelings also, is that we don't want to put ourselves in a bad situation at this point.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey, this is Bree. Did we look at any scenario where we have cheerleaders present and allow 2 parents per football player, 2 parents per cheerleader, and use a lottery system for the remaining tickets for the rest of the parents? You could have people fill out a Microsoft form that blows into an Excel spreadsheet and just use a random number generator to take the onus off the district of figuring out who should have tickets, and just use a lottery like some other districts are doing.
But Bree, if we do that, we're definitely over the 250. We can't stay under 250 with that plan. So are you saying you want to go over 250?
No, absolutely not. I think we need to stick to the 250, at least for this week, until we see what happens with this being vetoed and overridden. What if we don't give any tickets to the away side? Do we have any ability to offer senior parents 2 tickets?
Yeah, last column. The last column where it says 91, if we'd give our football players 2 tickets, that'd be 94.
So I put it right here.
Yeah.
That's no
And,
cheerleader
to get
parents.
rid of cheerleading parents. Yeah.
But she was saying, Bree, you were saying cheerleaders, 2 tickets per parent, 2 tickets per football parent.
Two tickets per senior football parent, 2
See.
tickets per senior cheerleading parent.
I just did that number here. It's 222.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you go to the F.
Good, yeah, good.
Go to F there, you can adjust the numbers for cheerleader parents and football parents. I think it's really important to have both parents for seniors
10
present.
and then 30. 214.
No, 10 would be 18 because there's 9. Yeah, there. That should be 18.
Yeah, it should be 18.
222. Bree?
Yeah, so then, I mean, it's unfortunate that we only have, under 30 tickets to offer everybody else, but I know that we received a lot of outreach from the community when there was fear that we wouldn't, approve a return to sports plan, and everybody was very vocal saying, of course, we want to see our kids play, but most important to us is that our kids get to play. Even if we can't be there to watch, hopefully live streaming is set up. It's not ideal, but it's not an ideal year. I think that providing the seniors with a meaningful experience and allowing those parents to watch them compete for their last season is the thing that we should be prioritizing here. And then we'll just, like I said, if you do a random lottery, then there's no favoritism to what happens with such few tickets. And it's as fair as I think we can be within the guidelines as they stand right now for this week.
Bree, I would definitely agree with you on that one.
I think anything here, what happens now could change tomorrow. But I just want to reiterate, I think it's really important for at least the seniors to have, like Bree said, a meaningful experience. I mean, who knows if we have one game and then the governor gets mad and decides no more. So I think at least giving them the opportunity to have somewhat of a senior year is really crucial.
So I also like that plan in column F there. I think that's sort of the best of both worlds, at least for the seniors. I would say with one caveat. So Wolf's administration said they intend to appeal the federal court's decision today. But I would say if that they do not get an injunction, then I'd be perfectly fine with column C, because that order struck down the 250 limit. Now, they could get an injunction before Friday, but that would be my thought. Go with column F if they get an injunction. If they don't get it, go with C.
As when I was reading there, it didn't strike down the 250 injunction. This was back with his mandates back in May. So since the original suit was filed, he's changed the guidelines. So whatever happens with that case does not necessarily, from what I can read and found, does not necessarily impact his current educational guidelines.
Yeah, I got that same, that case, that federal case they're talking about has to do with beauty shops and drive-ins, and that was all early COVID decisions. That had nothing to do with the 250 rule.
So what I'm reading right here is
there is a 250. Yep, there's a 250 congregate setting discussion in that same court case, but whether or not it applies to us or whether or not the governor's subsequent executive orders change whether or not that matters. None of us are lawyers, so even though I like to say things a lot, I think we need real guidance on that before we head down that path.
Yeah, I'll put my 2 cents in. Unfortunately, I feel that parents of kids on the field need to be there. If for some reason that child is hurt, that parent needs to be there to make decisions for their kids, whether it's a home parent or an away parent. I'm sorry, but I just feel that their representation far exceeds anything else. The safety of that student on the field. So my decision would definitely have to be H, to support parents. I just think a parent needs to be there.
I think I'm going to have to chime in with you, Tim. This is Cindy. I think player on the field needs a parent to make a decision. I know we have forms to fill out. We don't know if they're filled out. And I think column H keeps us under the 250, and it puts a parent of a player in the stadium.
We're not saying that parents of opposing players can't sit in the parking lot, correct?
We're gonna block off the area behind the concession stand only to, main reason to be a good neighbor. We're gonna put signs around the fences to make sure if anybody does to social distance, wear masks. And again, we're live streaming this, so and hopefully it's better than the Berwick live stream. But it's it's hopefully it'll be a nice show for the people watching it virtually.
I'm saying to allow them to sit in their car in the parking lot so that, if I'm a parent of the opposing team, I can sit in the car, watch a live stream. If there were an issue, I could come over to the gate and be allowed in to attend to my child.
I'm sure we wouldn't prevent that, Josh.
This is Bree again. I mean, isn't the consent for emergency treatment part of our sports physical? I can't imagine a situation where an athlete or an athletic program would be in compliance having athletes that don't have that that form signed. I completely understand if my child was injured, regardless of whether they were playing here in Timbuktu, I would want to be there. But as far as actual physical safety, if somebody's injured, that's the responsibility of the emergency personnel to assess that injury and to respond accordingly. So,
Tim Jernak was just here, our trainer, and he said that is signed in our medical paperwork for all student athletes.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
So we have that.
Bree, that's not my concern in the least. The concern is if my child was on that field, I would want to be there to make any decision if in fact he was injured.
I understand what you're saying, Tim, and that's what I said. I understand the sentiment. If my kid was injured here or elsewhere, I would want to be there. It's just, I think we have to weigh all the pros and cons. And again, I think, we're trying to figure out as a district what risk we can absorb, and parents have to make tough choices with their athletes as to what risk they're comfortable assuming for their students with the kind of rules of engagement we have to play in right now. It's a terrible choice for everybody.
We're not preventing parents from being able to just park in their car and just wait till the game's over, right?
Well, we're hoping that parents won't congregate.
Yeah.
We don't want
so long as
groups of people around the fences because we'd probably ask them to leave.
Yeah.
But there again, we don't have the staff to do
right.
that.
And,
So.
and the main thing we might do is walk around and say, hey, if they're around, please put your masks on, let's social distance, that type of thing. We know there'll be people hanging out. Again, if I was a parent that couldn't get in, I'd want to be there, even if I was just listening to the PA speaker, so.
I think that between now and Friday, whatever plan, we decide to move forward with tonight, I think it's critical that we are able to clearly communicate to the visiting team exactly what they can and cannot do on Friday. So there's no confusion. Otherwise, it's going to be just unnecessary chaos. That's going to take away from the game. Whatever you all agree is reasonable, whether you let people sit in cars, whether you say you can't go there, maybe there'll be a business nearby live streaming that people can be close enough if there's, God forbid, an emergency, but still not on campus. I just think it's only fair to everybody participating that they clearly understand what they can and cannot do before they come here.
This may be a long shot, but what about even opening up the 2 other school buildings here?
Indoors, you can only have 25.
Yeah, but I mean that would give you an extra 50 if you opened up.
Yeah, we don't have staff. We don't have staff to
run that.
Well, here would be my recommendation then. Is I like Bree's idea about 2 parents per senior. And what if we prioritize the remaining tickets to juniors? If there's any left over, lottery for sophomores, or if there's not enough for all the juniors, lottery for the juniors first. And then make sure parents know you can sit in your car, but you're not, if we see you out congregating around or trying to come in this stadium, you will not be allowed. But that way, any parents who don't get one of those tickets, or if they're with a traveling team, they're at least on campus in their car, should they need to be called over to the field quickly.
We can make that known to the visiting team this week.
Yeah, and I think it can be made known to our parents also. I mean, we could put out any kind of statement that if it's not adhered to, that the game will be stopped, and
Yeah, we would just, we're gonna have security here, and myself, Mr. Callahan will be out front trying to help out. But and our main thing is we just want to, promote safety, and hopefully people will cooperate with us if we have an issue, and I'm sure they will. Our fans are pretty good.
Jim, just to be clear here now, are you saying that because obviously, for a normal home game, especially the first game of the year, we'd have a couple thousand people. So if we have fans showing up, are they going to be permitted to congregate outside the stadium to view the game?
We're asking them not to. Again, we're not. If somebody's standing against the fence or standing there and they're, practicing social distancing and not causing problems, I guess there won't be too much of a problem. But again, it's going to, we don't want, groups of, 20, 30 people standing around in groups that we can't police. We would ask them to break it up and move around. But again, we're not, if there's some people hanging out and they're doing what they should be doing, social distancing, wearing masks, not causing any problems, we shouldn't really have too many problems. But we're going to ask them not to be here. That's why I think the main reason why we're trying to get this live streaming ready to go.
So when the question is asked, because that's what's going to happen, is we will have questions from people who are not parents about, can they come? Will they be able to, be on campus and watch the game from outside the stadium? Because our stadium is structured in such a way that there's quite a few areas where you could stand and have a decent view of what's going on. So we are to inform them that they are not permitted to be outside watching the game.
That would be my recommendation.
I think, Jim, if that's your recommendation, that's, unless the board's going to countermand that, I think that's what the rule is then. So the answer is no, don't stand around.
And a big reason is we just don't have the people to
police that. Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how across the fence changes the legal opinion of whether they're in the stadium or not, for the same discussion of if they're in those bleachers or these bleachers, what's 250, where does the 250 radius extend to, right? If people are standing along the fence line, I don't see that argument going very far to say they're separate. So hopefully all this is a moot discussion, and this week we can have a discussion about what actually makes sense for our facility if the governor either signs this bill or it's overruled, or veto is overruled, that is. So do we need to vote on something? If your path forward is to follow state laws and operate in accordance with the already approved sports health and safety plan that we passed back in the summer, does the board have any action tonight? Or
we do have an agenda item on the board that we can do. We can say column C, which consists of 2 tickets for senior parents for both cheerleaders and football players, and lottery off the remaining tickets to underclassmen on both the cheerleaders and football players.
Does that require board action, or is that just consensus?
That could be a directive. I mean,
Yeah.
It could be either way, Josh. But
I think it's in your purview As long as we're not exceeding any legal limits or mandates and you're operating within the plan that's already approved, unless some other board member unless somebody wants to challenge that, I think it's definitely within your authority to make that decision if no one has any objections at this point for what we want to do. I mean, we can also move into the special meeting and formally convene the meeting and vote and do all that if you'd like, but
Yeah, I don't think we need to
I
vote.
don't see any need for it.
Just whatever decision.
I'm fine with that.
People pretty much went around and gave their 2 cents. So like I said, I was fine with column H, and if somebody wants to do something different, that's fine.
Okay,
Jim, I would just throw in again, I would rather see that lottery go weighted towards the juniors first
okay.
instead of
Is
juniors and
that
sophomores.
fine with everybody else? Junior parents?
Sure, I think that's fine. Junior football and cheerleading parents.
Okay. You're looking at 1 ticket per raffle, so if there's, like we have 222 now, you're just looking at 30 parents, or do you want two tickets per parent, juniors?
Jim, if you do juniors 1 ticket, you might be able to actually just provide them for football and cheerleading. You're going to be right around that number of 250, I believe.
Okay. We'll look at that and try to be fair. We'll get the juniors first, and then if we have extras, if we have an odd number of extra, we'll do a lottery for underclassmen.
And to answer your question, I think we're just talking 1 ticket once it gets to the juniors and sophomores.
Okay, sounds good. Before we move on to the board meeting, we do have a number of statements here. Let's read them quickly. Number 1, Shelley Browbitz from Ralphville Township. The band has worked very hard preparing for their season. They deserve to play. Please save the band. Absolutely, they're going to deserve to play, and they will. Scott Kramer from Ralphville Township. Well, the recent federal court ruling, I think we talked about that. We're hoping to get some more guidance on that in the coming days. 3, Shelley Browbitz, again, Ralphville Township. Thank you for having the band perform. 4, Nicole Heim, Ralphville Township. Any options allow both parents of seniors? I think we discussed that. We're going to do that for senior football players and senior cheerleaders. 5, Tom Sharrow, Cleveland Township. Kids being there should be our first priority. Why are we giving JV football players' parents tickets? There's a separate JV football schedule. Would that also give enough space to allow band at the games as well? Parents getting tickets from seniors on down. I think that's the plan, of tickets for seniors on down. I do know JV football players, Coach Ross, very good at getting a lot of our younger players in the games. But yeah, we're going to start from seniors on down and get tickets. Number 6, Anita Rose, Catawissa. Can parents help with any other aspects of chain gang or security? We did look at that and actually talked about that, but then we would be excluding, because there's only a limited number of positions, and we'd be excluding some parents to allow other parents in to do that. But so we already have our announcers, we have our chain gang, we have our security, but that was absolutely discussed. Brandy Drucker from Franklin Township, would the cheerleaders be able to do their routine at a different time like the band? That way all cheerleading parents could attend, and would give the opportunity for home and away football players to have at least one parent at the game. Also check packets that turned into the trainer. I do believe we all filled out paperwork. Yep, it is in the trainer packet. And I mean, if the cheerleaders wanted to do at a different time, we absolutely could. I think we have a good plan right now in place. Number 8, Tom Sharrow, Cleveland Township. For seniors, this is their last season, to ask only one parent to attend. Yeah, I think we got that fixed. We're going to have two per senior. Number 9, Jamie Tuzleski, Roaring Creek. Any choice to make that includes adults over children participating is simply wrong. The argument that a parent must be present for treatment seems suspect. If that were the case, then no parent should ever allow their child out of their sight in case they need treatment in any scenario. So if my child fell ill at the school or got hurt in the gym or gym class, they cannot be treated until I arrive to sign a paper. Do the right thing, choose the children. I think we have done that. Number 10, John William, Ralpho Township. If I understand correctly, some board members are suggesting we go over 250 mandate based on the assumption there will be no repercussions by the state government. However, we do not yet know if there will be repercussions. Is the board willing to gamble on that? The risk is the possibility of fall sports being shut down, possibility, financial repercussions, and other unknowns. We need to follow 250 rule until it's been lifted. And John, I think we are absolutely doing that. I think it was just a discussion. Brad Jones, Catawissa Borough. Everyone is concerned about the senior football and cheerleader experience. What about the band? Their senior business experience should matter as just as much. Absolutely. And John, I don't know if you heard our conversation, or excuse me, Brad, we meet with the band, and the band is going to perform at 5 o'clock, and we will allow all the band parents in for their performance. The only thing we ask is as the band exits the field, the parents exit the field as well. Just want to make sure I got everybody. Lori Heath, Roaring Creek Township. I understand that for many seniors, this is their last opportunity to play and cheer, and that parents obviously want to be there, but please realize every parent is able to argue why they should be there. This is my daughter's first year cheering, and she spent many hours practicing. I spent many hours transporting her to and from those practices, and also a good bit of money for practice wear, uniform costs, camp, etc. I think all athletes deserve to have a parent present to support them. No one knows what the future holds, and sadly, there may be other circumstances that arise that could prevent parents from watching their athletes down the road, or even athletes being injured and a parent never seeing them participate. Every athlete should have a parent in attendance. Number 13, Donna Knoble, Ralpho Township. I'm having trouble understanding what is the issue regarding having a parent there in terms of an injury situation. Athletes have practice and camps and parents are not permitted to attend, and in which there is just as much potential for injury as during a game. Games that occurred on Friday did not allow that away team, any visitors, cheer or band. So our players will be playing in games without a parent present. Therefore, I do not believe our cheerleaders should be left out to allow away parents to be present. That's not what was decided, and our cheerleaders, starting from seniors down, will have parents there. I think that is, one more, I'm sorry. Beth Ann Hoover, Locust Township. Hello, this is a tough time for all, and unfortunately we must make sacrifices for the parties of interest of our children. This season is not for you or for I, it's for them. Whether they play football, cheer, or in the band, they deserve a season. We cannot selfishly expect to allow them to be removed from this opportunity. We all know with the sports they play, they could be at jeopardy of an injury. They can be injured at practice as well. I know we all have experienced this call from a coach. I think it's important to allow these children their opportunity to have a season, and we all had our time to shine. Please let them have theirs. And I do believe, Beth, I think that's exactly what we are doing. Okay, Mr. Vogt, that was all the questions.
All right, well, let's move to our quick board meeting.
Okay, let me get here quick. All right.
Are you good?
Oh, yeah, just let me get there. Hold on 1 second. Oh, hold on. Let me just check one thing. Not sharing. There, I'm sharing. Okay.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. Can we have a roll call, please?
Cindy Brassington,
Present?
Drew Hampton,
Here.
Josh Hoagland,
Here.
Greg Klebon, Brianna Majeski,
Present.
Josh Majeski,
Here.
Tony Serafini,
Here.
Tim Vogt,
Here.
Eli Yemzo.
Here.
8 members present.
All right, this time, the agenda hearing period, the purpose of the agenda hearing period is for residents in the audience to make statements to the board of directors on action items on the agenda. Do you have any, Jim?
There was just one more from the activities meeting. So as we go through it, we'll give it a minute to get through to people. Kelly Cuff from Roaring Creek Township. I'm saddened by the board's decision. My daughter has practiced all summer, and this is her first year on varsity. And I am being denied the right to see this huge milestone for her. Every child deserves to have a parent cheering them on. I don't think we disagree with any of that. It's just we're limited to what we can do and what we can't do. Okay. Yeah, that's all for now, Mr. Vogt.
All right, this time, Jim, superintendent's report.
Okay, just again, quick discussion today. I did meet, we had a video or teleconference, myself and our school nurse, Alexa Spade, with the Department of Health and PDE. And as some of you may know, Columbia County has stayed in the substantial range. And although our numbers have improved greatly, what is holding us back is our percent positive, which is at 13.4. In order to go to the moderate level, it has to be below 10. Our numbers are trending in the right way. You know, as of this moment, we have no known cases of students or staff members. So our local area is strong and our county numbers are improving. And the next day we'll have some communication back and forth and look at some other local numbers. And by Wednesday, we'll put a decision out where we're going to go for next week. Again, all of our wants are, we want to be back in person, 100% full in person. We know the virtual experience isn't as strong as full in person, and we're working hard to make it better. Our teachers doing a great job and are working tirelessly to do that. And we are going to consider all aspects, look at all the data, and make a decision. I would think by Wednesday to get it out to everybody. That's for a quick superintendent's report. That's all I have, Mr. Vogt.
All right, this time, items fiscal, we'll be looking to accept the donation to the elementary lunch account. Do we have a motion to accept that donation?
I'll make that motion.
That was Josh Hoagland.
I'll second it.
Tim?
Any discussion? Other than a thank you to whoever the person was that made this donation. It's very much appreciated.
What's the amount? I don't have it in front of me at the moment.
It's $200.
That's great. That's great.
We have a roll call vote, please.
Cindy Brassington,
Yes.
Drew Hampton,
Yes.
Josh Hoagland,
Yes.
Bree Majeski,
Yes.
Josh Majeski,
Yes.
Tony Serafini,
Yes.
Tim Vogt,
Yes.
Eli Yemzo.
Yes.
8-0.
All right, at this time, unless somebody has a problem with voting as a block, we'll be looking for a motion to approve items A, B, C, D, E, and F. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Cindy, second.
I'll second it.
It's Tony.
Second by Tony. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Drew Hampton,
Yes.
Josh Hoagland,
Yes.
Brianna Majeski,
Yes.
Josh Majeski,
Yes.
Tony Serafini,
Yes.
Tim Boat,
Yes.
Eli Yemzau.
Yes.
8-0 in favor.
All right, this time the chair will be looking for a motion to approve item A in policy and programs. First reading of revised policy 103, 104, 247, 249, 252, 317.1, and 824.
These are,
Have a
the-
motion.
yeah, these are the ones we went over at policy meeting.
So moved. This is Josh.
Motion by Josh. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Eli. Any discussion? There's no discussion. Roll call, please.
Josh Hoagland,
Yes.
Brianna Majeski,
Yes.
Josh Majeski,
Yes.
Tony Serafini,
Yes.
Tim Boat,
Yes.
Eli Yemzau,
Yes.
Cindy Brassington,
Yes.
Drew Hampton.
Yes.
8-0 in favor.
All right, this time, is there any board comment?
Yeah, I'd just like to say something here. And I just want to direct this really to any students, athletes, parents and families, teachers and staff, and just the community at large, really. We are listening and we do hear you. I know it may not always seem like it or feel like it, but trust me, we do hear everything you say and we appreciate everything, all of your input. We know that you're frustrated, you're irritated, just like we are here as well. But I just want you guys to know one thing, that, at the heart of this, your children are our children. Everything that you want for them is the same thing that we want for them. So there's not a decision that we come to lightly here. I'm speaking for myself, but I imagine the others feel similar, where we don't consider all the possible options and fight for the best possible solution here. So really just thank you for contributing, for your suggestions, and just most importantly, your resiliency with all of this. I know everything is just kind of crazy, so thank you.
Any other board comment?
I would like to
Josh.
discuss.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Other Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, this is the other Josh. I would like to put a few minutes into discussing the learning models and give Mr. Becker some feedback on if we could before the end of the meeting. Whether now would be the appropriate time or not.
Yep, absolutely.
So I know there's been a whole lot of feedback from the community on everybody's struggles. I have a first grader, a third grader. We've been struggling as well on managing that. Again, it's a very difficult situation we've been put in because the state is recommending what we should do. They won't give us any kind of liability protection should we decide to remain fully open. I would like to encourage us to consider going back to full in-person based on cases in our school. And, I know Mr. Becker's worked very hard on some contingencies should we ever get any cases there. But I know right now, none of us really know exactly what may happen with COVID or any kind of community spread in our local area. But we do know that, our education is not as good as if we were all in person. So that's my 2 cents on that. But again, I would just like the community to recognize Mr. Becker, the rest of the board members we're in a very difficult position here as we're trying to put the education of our students as number one, but we also have their safety as number one as well. And so we're doing our best to try and balance those two things. And especially for our teachers, they're struggling to teach the kids in class and become, pseudo IT specialists to make sure they're taking care of their students at home. So either way, I would ask the community to try and bear with us, as I know truly our staff is trying to do their best.
Josh, I would also echo what you said regarding some of the feedback that you've received from the community. I too am a parent, very connected within the community, so I would definitely agree with you that people are growing a little bit more concerned that it's not working out the way that they would envision it. So I just wanted to offer that up as well.
This is Bree. I agree with what everyone has said so far. It is definitely challenging, and I appreciate the parents that are reaching out, and I really appreciate the parents that are reaching out with suggestions or solutions and not just problems. Because as everyone has said, the teachers, the administrators, the staff, the board, we're all trying to make no-win difficult decisions, keeping the best interests of our students in mind. And I also tell people, the really interesting and cool thing about this school board, in my opinion, is we have skin in the game. This school board has 9 elementary students that belong to the members of it. So we're not, and I say elementary because I think that it's easier to migrate hybrid or virtual with older kids who understand computers and are more self-sufficient. Not that it's ideal for anyone, but we are personally feeling exactly what we're asking everybody to do. The second day I had 3 kids crying in different rooms. I walked 6.5 miles around my house policing mute buttons. It's not ideal, and my kids wear headsets. I can't hear what's going on, but it's the quietest my house has been in 8 years. I'm remarkably surprised at how engaged they are. They are quiet and they are doing their best to sit still, which is not a natural thing for kids this age, and remain engaged. And as I'm policing mute buttons, I'm seeing eyes of teachers that are working really hard to make it as fun and engaging as possible, despite it being an impossible situation. I think that one thing we need to think about is finding a way to have a meaningful evaluation of where we are winning and losing with this hybrid model in our younger learners. I know some other districts, hybrid means still 5 days full in person for K through 2 or K through 3. And I think that we should put some energy into figuring out, where are we losing and where are we winning by having a hybrid model for these younger students. I don't have any recommendations off the top of my head about how we go about that. And I don't think any of the other districts have had enough experience following their hybrid plan with those younger kids in person still every day to offer us much advice. But I think that if we inevitably, when we get into a situation where we may have to be hybrid for a long period of time, that our definition of hybrid may need to evolve. But I echo what everyone said. Everyone's trying really hard in a difficult situation. We're all frustrated and we all want normal. And we just appreciate everyone's efforts and patience and resiliency and modeling resiliency for their kids.
Does anybody else have any comments? I'll just give one shout out. Thank you, Brian Davis, for all you've done the last few weeks, keeping our kids and their computers working. I know you've worked a lot of hours and we truly appreciate it.
I'll second that.
In the coming days will be 1-to-1 K-4, or 1-to-1 4 to 12. So Mr. Davis and his crew has done a remarkable job.
Anybody else have any?
This is Josh. I'm not going to restate everything that everybody said. I agree with all of that, and I agree with the sentiment that we all want to get back to full-time in person as an option for those who feel safe doing so as quickly as we can, and still having the option for those who just don't feel comfortable yet, with the SoCo Live option. The one thing I'll add, though, is for those who have emailed us or reached out via phone or text or whatever it may be, that is very useful and valuable in assessing where we're at. And that I'd ask that as you send a message, you think about the fact that while your position seems like the most obvious solution in many cases, there are, for every email we get on one side, we probably get an email on the other side, right? So go full, go hybrid, go full virtual, right? At any point through this process, we've received input on all sides, which is very helpful in assessing, what is the most reasonable course of action at any given moment, and recognizing that will shift as things evolve and people's comfort levels change. So please keep engaging with the board, even if we're not doing or even especially if we're not doing what you think we should be doing, right? It is, even if we're not doing what you're asking, knowing what people are asking for helps guide this process in a choice of nothing that is a good answer. That's all I wanted to add. Thanks.
All right, anybody else? At this time, we'll take any more public comment.
We'll give it a minute or two, Mr. Vogt. We're at 15. That's what we read so far.
Okay.
Give it another minute.
Hey, Jim, just to make sure, we don't have an executive session after this, correct?
Nope, we do not.
All right. Thank you.
Do not. Mr. Vogt, if that's enough time, and I think we're still at 15.
All right. This time, the chair's looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
So moved.
Motion by Cindy.
Second by Drew.
All those in favor, roll call, please.
Brianna Majeski,
Yes.
Josh Majeski,
Yes.
Tony Serafini,
Yes.
Tim Boat,
Yes.
Eli Emsal,
Yes.
Cindy Brassington,
Yes.
Drew Hampton,
Yes.
Josh Hoagland,
Yes.
8-0. Meeting is adjourned.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. You guys have a great evening.
I'll be in touch with